Hi guys, Ian here. Now I really wanted to do something for real talk this week. Kaso kasi sobrang naging out of hand yung mga sitwasyon na to. I actually really wanted to make an open letter to the people involved, which are my friends. Pero naisip ko, I might as well not do that kasi bukod sa number one, sobrang toxic na. And number two, ayoko nang palalain yung sitwasyon. So, siguro uh, simulan ko na lang sa isang paghingi ng pamanhin. And I would like to say sorry to the person that is at the center of this mess that we have as friends. Know that I am not really uh, intending to say that what you really would what other people wanted to tell about you, and sa totoo lang nasasaktan din ako kasi kaibigan pa naman natin yung mga taong yon, and um I would really like to know why the bloody hell are they saying something like that. Kaya ako siguro buti na lang at the last minute hindi ko na hindi ko na sinabing, or hindi ko na i-share yung gusto kong sabihin, the things that I would like to think out loud, kasi nga bukod sa mahaba siya, sobrang may inis lang din talaga ako, at baka lumala pa. So siguro ang gagawin ko na lang is hingi na lang ako ng pamanhin din sa kanya in private, and siguro I'll just get there when I get there. So the reason why I've changed my topic at the last minute is because I saw this article from a Catholic news commentary site called Where Peter Is. So they are commenting on an article from the National Catholic Reporter about the Latin Mass becoming a cult of toxic tradition. Well, uh, suffice to say, but the NCR, as it is acronymed, has its notoriety. Kumbaga, notorious na siya sa pagiging in the way that Americans call it, fish wrapper. Kumbaga, dito kung sa Pilipinas yan, pambalot ng tinapa. yung yun yung notoriety ng National Catholic Reporter, and it is so yung original article mula sa NCR, ililink ko na lang din sa description sa baba, as well as this article na babasahin ko. So both of them would be on the description below. Pakibasa na lang after this para siguro maano niyo lang. And then I'll do with the real talk. Okay? So ang title nitong article sa Where Peter Is ay False Accusations, Not the Extraordinary Form, Are Toxic. So kakalabas lang siya ngayon kasi November 6 sa kanila ngayon, and November 7 na ngayon. So basically ganun nga, parang ngayon lang din. So here so it goes like this. The National Catholic Reporter recently published an opinion piece entitled "The Latin Mass Becomes a Cult of Toxic Tradition." Again, the link to both articles are on the description below. written by Zita Bollinger Fletcher. Hindi ko ma-pronounce yung isang pangalan dito. In the piece, the author attempts to show, based on facts and personal experience, that's on quotes, that the Latin Mass, henceforth properly called the extraordinary form of the Mass, or EF for short, per se, endorses sexism, clericalism, etc. I mean, uh, nung nakita ko yung glimpse nung original article, ang isip ko, what the bloody hell is this woman what is in her mind? Kasi, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I'll just continue with the reading the article na siguro. Now, sabi dito, the piece wildly misses the mark, and I agree it does. Liturgical preference for either the EF or the OF or the ordinary form of the Mass, aka the Novus Ordo, does not in itself imply something about the beliefs and character of those expressing that preference, nor do traditional elements that seem particularly out of place in our increasingly egalitarian society and church necessarily create or reflect anti-egalitarian views. To say otherwise and to accuse EF participants of being sexist clericalists simply for the fact that they prefer the EF is calumnious. I'll continue. And what deserves a fuller treatment, it can be argued, as I would, or as the author of this article would, that Pope Benedict was wrong in his decision to expand access to the extraordinary form of the Roman Rite. The author says, my argument essentially points out that despite Pope Benedict's intentions, the expansion has segregated communities in some places and extracted Catholics who have been willing to act on faith-based principles from their geographic parishes, denying them the fruits of their active participation. Surely, the ordinary church today is in desperate need of those who dare to act boldly because of their convictions. But as much as I've been critical of the decision, as the author says, I appreciate Benedict's argument that, in part, the EF retains certain elements that some legitimately prefer and which cannot typically be found in the OF. Benedict's vision, yet to be fully realized, was that the two forms would enrich each other through their respective contributions to liturgical practice. I guess yun talaga yung yun yung plan talaga ni Pope Benedict eh. And as much as I don't want to spoil the whole article, yun yung napansin ko rin as on a personal note, kasi nakita ko din na na during his papacy, Pope Benedict had sabihin na natin incorporated some of the old practices, vestments, arrangements, or even the tone itself of the Mass has been upgraded into some kind of a compromise between the TLM and the Novus Ordo, in a way that might be similar to what the church did to the ordinariates for former Anglicans and their liturgical patrimony. Kumbaga, they just provided the Anglican flavor to a very Catholic tradition, and in return, all of the Anglican traditions that were brought into the church by former Anglicans who now became Catholics have been, not surprising, Catholicized. So yun yung yun yung observation ko about the Ratzingerian papacy, if I can say it that like that. So let's continue with the article. Uh, Sadly, instead of working toward an enriched unity in diversity, liturgical preference, at least in the United States, and in extension siguro dito sa Pilipinas, has created distinct communities at the exact wrong time. Liturgical preference is now frequently seen as a reliable proxy for one's support, or lack thereof, of Pope Francis and his reforms. Either one is for him, in the Novus Ordo, or one is sexist, homophobic, clericalist, and so on, in which is basically uh, the apparent stance nung TLM. The author's article feeds into this lazy false dichotomy, and that's basically what I liked about this article. Kumbaga, my goodness, false dichotomy talaga eh. Kasi as one of my contacts told me on Facebook, hindi ko mahanap dito. One of them told me, I have met too many assholes in both the EF and OF communities. And I pray that these jerks never, sadly unrealistic thanks to social media, meet people honestly inquiring about entering the Catholic Church. So, I'll leave it at that. Now, eto. First, it must be said that despite the common perception, many of those who are outspoken in their support of Francis and his reforms are themselves regular participants at EF masses, and the author including some of the Where Peter Is contributors. Of course, the opposite is true as well. Secondly, the author makes arguments that are based on her own assessment on how certain elements of the EF affect, reflect, or reinforce certain beliefs without any justification whatsoever. Veils willingly donned by some women are not necessarily expressive of a sexist patriarchal structure. A little anecdote. Tinanong ko rin yung girlfriend ko kung bakit hindi na niya sinusot yung belo niya. Kasi prior to our relationship, nagti-TLM siya, and kumbaga doon kami nagkakilala, and the rest is history. But then nakita niya yung baho sa mga tao na uma-attend doon. The mass is good, but the people, as she told me, not really that much. So we both decided to leave for a while. She never came back. Ako bumalik kasi may mga bago na ring mga Mass-goers talaga na hindi kasing weirdo o na lupig na nila yung mga tililing nila. So siguro ganun na lang. But I'll reserve most of my comments later on pag natapos na ako sa article. I would have to finish this article muna, and I don't wanna copy the style of one of the famous radio broadcasters anywhere in the world, whatever. Basta ganun. Sabaw, yun. Nor do communion rails necessarily imply something about the importance of the priest. Never mind, I suppose that these elements can at least sometimes be found at OF masses, and arguably increasingly so following the passage of Summorum Pontificum. Kumbaga, that's basically his parang postscript na lang na, well, dahil sa Summorum Pontificum nagkaroon na rin ng possibility na magkaroon ng altar rails kahit sa Novus Ordo. And that's one good thing that both forms of the Mass uh, basically uh, enrich each other. So, small steps are still steps. Yun lang naman masasabi ko doon. Moreover, the argument made in the NCR piece was that the EF was priest-centric because the priest is the center of the spectacle, aside from the obvious fact that priests at OF Masses are still running the show, so to speak. Her choice of words is particularly unfortunate, given that priests celebrating OF Masses also sometimes make a spectacle themselves. Finally, the over-reliance on personal experience is just a screaming invitation to all those who oppose the OF to trot out their favorite liturgical abuses they themselves experience at an OF Mass. The point must be that abuses can be found on both sides of the liturgical divide. And certainly, the abuses found in the liturgy prior to Vatican II were no doubt an important reason why so many were demanding authentic reform. While Francis has been notably critical of those who cling to certain traditional elements, and this is important, okay, he has not criticized the elements themselves. And the Pope himself says Mass ad orientem at times, praise in Latin, and so on. So, siguro ang sinasabi lang dito, although we have a little bit of, paano masasabi ko? Although we have a little bit of, uh, siguro, violent reaction, lalong-lalo na sa Amazon Synod and all the other shit that happened in the Vatican Gardens. Kung tutuusin, he's still allowing Catholics to go to a TLM. I mean, that's not I'm not defending the Pope in this matter, pero I am just looking at the article itself and maybe interpret it in my own words. Let's continue. What he does criticize are certain attitudes and beliefs, such as what he details in Gaudete et Exultate. And these attitudes and beliefs can be found in both liturgical forms. And I would like to emphasize on both liturgical forms. Kasi, even in TLMs, may mga iba rin talaga. Either the priest makes the mistake, or the server, or the lay faithful make their own mistakes or their own superstitions and all that shit. Depende. Depende talaga. Indeed, nothing he condemns has an inherent connection to the EF or those who express a preference for it. Even in the OF, there can be found priests and parishioners who lack understanding and empathy, who misunderstand the role and function of the sacrament of confession, who insist on certain devotions the church does not require, who take up a position from which they can domineer their parishes. So, kumbaga, ini-enumerate na lang ng author dito yung yung mga abuso or sabihin na nating mga cringeworthy practices by some Catholic priests when they are in their parishes. And sad to say, nangyayari. These attitudes and behaviors are condemned by the Pope when he details modern-day Gnosticism and Pelagianism. He wrote, and siguro ilalagay ko na lang din sa description sa baba yung sinulat niya na I think this is an apostolic exhortation, yung Gaudete et Exultate. I'm gonna link it on the description below. The Pope wrote, "Once we believe that everything depends on human effort as channeled by ecclesial rules and structures, we unconsciously complicate the gospel and became enslaved to a blueprint that leaves few openings for the working of grace. If we want to uproot these sins from the church," the author is finishing up here, We should follow the advice of the Pope and recall the essential message of Christianity, that we are all in desperate need of God's mercy. Moving past the reprehensible attitudes and behaviors detailed by the author in her piece requires that we be reinvigorated in our love of God and reinstate that love at the center of our liturgical worship. Yes, specific liturgies of both the old and new forms at times need to be purified through the grace of God, who calls each of us into deeper faith and love. But false accusations made against, particularly all those who prefer the EF, does not serve the church. And I emphasize that kasi it just, eto yung tatapusin ko na yung huling sentence do sa paragraph na yun. And ito yung importante kumbaga that's the reason why this is the reason why he says that these false accusations does not serve the church. It only perpetuates the divisions in the church which desperately need to be overcome through charity in truth. And that's very that's very tragic that we have to paano ko masasabi to? We have to paano ko masasabi to? I'm at loss of words as well kasi to be honest, I've also been an asshole when I started up attending the Latin Mass. But then through the grace of God, of course, and a little bit of common sense and some insight from other peers, and also some experiences of myself through life, mali din naman din yung realize ko rin yung mga mali ko, and it's a good thing that those things happened. So pardon me about that. So the name of the author of this article is Daniel Amiri, and he is a Catholic layman, finance professional, and armchair theologian. Well, yun lang ang medyo sabihin natin more an armchair theologian, parang amateur theologian. I think that kumbaga we can interchange on that. But he leaves us with these words spoken by Cardinal Robert Sarah, whose work on the liturgy may have seen as in opposition to Pope Francis. But once again, however, the false dichotomy needlessly persists. And Cardinal Sarah said this: when the Holy Father, Pope Francis, asked me to accept the ministry of prefect of congregation for divine worship and discipline of the sacraments, I asked, Your Holiness, how do you want me to exercise this ministry? What do you want me to do as prefect of this congregation? The Holy Father's reply was clear. I want you to continue to implement the liturgical reform of the Second Vatican Council, he said. And I want you to continue the good work in the liturgy begun by Pope Benedict XVI. So, siguro, nakakaawa lang din talaga para sa inang simbahan na may mga tao din talaga na paano ako masasabi to? Sobrang pinag-aaway nila yung mga mass-goers ng Latin Mass at yung mga wala lang pakialam basta makapagsimba lang sa Novus Ordo. I mean, it's just false dichotomy. Kasi ako, nagsisimba ako sa Novus Ordo, but I also attend the Latin Mass. Does it mean that I am like what the author in the NCR article is? I mean, sexist ba ako? Clericalist and all that shit? No. I mean, I try not to be, that's for sure. But those are basically false accusations. Kumbaga, hindi mali na magkaroon ng mga personal experiences, but of course, kung i-generalize mo lahat ng bagay, mali nga naman din. So, yun lang naman ang gusto kong sabihin doon. And to be honest, hindi ko rin talaga alam kung talagang medyo ano talaga ako na to be honest, talagang ano din talaga ako, sobrang I'm trying to calm myself down with what's really happening with the circle of friends that I've got. And pipilit ko na lang din na siguro pakasamahan yung mga nangyayari sa kanila. It's very, very touchy, sobrang sensitive, and I don't want to talk about it anymore. So, other than my short apology in my at the beginning of this video, I guess that's the last of it for that matter. And as for this article, as I said, all of the things that was mentioned in the Where Peter Is article and the article itself, all of that is in the description below. So if you have time to read it, please do take your time reading all of them as much as I would do. And I guess that's about it. So next week, I would premiere my first synthesis on YouTube na nasulat ko na yung script, and i-upload ko na lang or i-record ko na lang. As for TLDR, marami din akong i-check kung may mga hindi ko pa nare-react and all that. But other than that, siguro yun lang muna. And bago pa humaba yung ano nito, yung video na to, I would cut this now. So with that said, this is Ian, and until then, see you next time. Bye guys.